Hey everybody, it's Kelly. Welcome back to another episode of Ask a Therapist. Today I want to talk to you about a human emotion called jealousy. Jealousy, the green-eyed monster, whatever you want to call it, there is a very intense human emotion that comes out in us when we feel like our connection with another person is in jeopardy. Whether people are just more possessive over time, or if we're just kind of going through something as a country, I'm not too sure, but jealousy has come up so often recently that I think it's necessary for me to go ahead and do a video on it to help you to understand what it is, what its function is, and how you can deal with it. Jealousy at its core has actually a very significant human function. Jealousy clues us in on a potential weakness or danger to a significant relationship in our lives. If you feel like it's in danger, then you turn around and work harder on it, or check in with the person, or just spend more time with them in general. But the function of jealousy itself is to say,
hey, wake up, person. This relationship is potentially vulnerable.
as a whole, the emotion of jealousy is really not a bad one. It doesn't feel great inside when we're feeling jealous. It doesn't play great depending on what we actually do with that jealousy, but it's a completely valid emotion. Jealousy is comprised of an entire range of human emotions in and of itself.
Rage,
Fear,
Humiliation,
anxiety. There are so many different emotions wrapped up into jealousy that sometimes it's hard to sort of pick them apart. Jealousy can get a really bad rap sometimes because it's seen as an immature emotion, or you're lacking confidence in a relationship in your life, and that's why jealousy shows up. And that may be, it depends on the relationship, really. As humans, we are meant for connection with one another. And in general, jealousy was functional to keep us in connection, clue us into when those connections are maybe fragmenting. Now jealousy has a little less of an evolutionary mandate. That doesn't make it less important. The issue is that jealousy can come from lots of different things. It can come from low self-esteem of the person feeling it. It can come from sensing that there is actually something wrong or manipulatable in the relationship that you have with someone else. There's a lot of factors that go into making jealousy what it is now. And a whole different layer that we're going to add on top of it, as we do with many things in this channel, is that in the queer community, jealousy can even show up differently. And it shows up differently because as humans who have a mandate internally to connect with other people, and our group for connecting has shrunk as intolerance has grown in the countries that we live in, we become even more protective of those other relationships that are our significant and safe relationships. So anything that's a perceived threat to those can be problematic for the future of the relationship or for our own emotional well-being. Jealousy is typically seen as part of a romantic relationship process. You're in a relationship with someone, everything is going great, things are wonderful, and then maybe things cool down. Maybe you don't spend as much time together. Maybe you get married and have kids and have careers and don't connect in the same way. Whatever it is that's happening in the relationship, when you notice the attention of that person to be straying from you, it can bring up jealousy. Could that jealousy mean that you have low self-esteem? Yes. Could that jealousy mean that the person is actually paying less attention to you? Yes. Could they be paying less attention to you and also it's not detrimental to your relationship? Yes. But should you ignore the jealousy? No. When you feel jealousy in any relationship you have in your life, it is a clue to check in. It's an opportunity to look at yourself and say,
why do I feel this emotion?
is there something wrong?
Objectively, do I see reasonableness in this?
Or is it something in me that I need to work on?
jealousy can very quickly spiral out of control. We can act out. We can push somebody away in reaction to the way they've pushed us away. It can be a reactionary thing across the board to shut ourselves down from people because we don't want to experience jealousy. And again, in the queer community, we see those bonds being strong. Whether they're romantically oriented bonds or not, those bonds are stronger, and therefore we tend to be more possessive of one another and our time with one another. When you are someone who has undergone abandonment in your life, if you've had people walk out of your life before, and if you feel like it's been a habit, your jealousy radar is going to be a lot higher in those relationships where you find yourself being able to commit in the first place. So yes, jealousy has a function. Yes, it shows up differently in queer relationships. Yes, it can feel strong and passionate and it can fuel a relationship also, it isn't necessarily something we want to hold on to and to continue to play into for ourselves. Staying in that jealous place is not extremely positive for growing as a person. It's also not extremely positive for your own emotional health. When jealousy shows up in a relationship, it can be destructive if it's not handled correctly. Time and time again, I hear people say,
well, I'm just a jealous person.
Or,
we're just both jealous people and we're very possessive of each other.
If that's the language of your relationship and it works for both of you, great. But I would also submit that if it works for both of you, you might not be jealous as much as you currently are. The idea of someone being possessive of us, the idea of someone being jealous over our relationship with someone else can be kind of a heady type thing. It can really help with your self-esteem. To know that someone finds you so significant in their lives that they are driven to jealousy when you find other also significant relationships, it's okay if that feels good. You just don't want to stay there. You don't want to stay in that place of jealousy, and you don't want to stay in that place in a relationship where you're suspicious of everything the other one does. Sometimes jealousy comes from previous issues, and then we sort of carry that into the language of our relationship in general. And I'm going to tell you that at some point you choose to either begin to consciously let it go, or you choose to end the relationship. There's not a ton of middle ground there. If you choose to continue to hold on to a partner's violations of your trust, you are choosing to chip away at that safety between the two of you. Neither partner can feel safe when there's not trust. If that trust is not where both partners need it to be, then talking to one another, talking to a professional, trying to work things out, if you want to work things out, are your next steps. If you don't want to work things out, then don't work things out. But don't continue to stay together and butt heads and make each other less than happy because you want to salvage something that has been sticking around maybe longer than it needed to. Okay, so there's also envy, and envy is different. What you feel when you're scrolling someone's Instagram feed and you see all these amazing places they're going or how wonderful their life looks in squares, that's envy, not jealousy. Envy is another similarly prompted emotion. It helps you to know when there is something you feel like you're lacking in your own life. So when you feel that envy feeling, for you, when it goes beyond the,
oh wow, I wish I could do that,
or
I wish I had time to take vacations,
or someone to take vacations with,
or
the money to do these things.
I don't know, whatever it is that you see on other people's social media that makes you sort of reassess your own life, those initial feelings of,
oh dang,
are fine. It's when you allow them to take over most of your thought process that it becomes a problem. And at that point, you need to ask yourself, what am I looking for in life? Why am I seeing these things that other people are doing and feeling envious of that? What is it I'm really needing? What is it I feel like I'm missing? Those are the internal questions that I encourage you to sort of try to answer, journal a little bit about them, and see if you can figure out what it is that you feel like you are lacking in order to put that envy in the appropriate place to prompt you to change your life in the way that you want it to be changed. So what's the point of all this? The point is this: understanding where jealousy and envy come up in your life is very important internal work to do so that you can understand where you perceive yourself to be lacking and where you can start doing work on yourself in order to have stronger relationships with other people, with yourself, with the world as a whole. When you stop seeing other people as the potential enemy and start seeing them as potential assets to you, the world changes a bit. Everything looks a bit different. And there's something to be said about not guilting yourself in these situations. Recognizing that jealousy and envy really both play a higher significance in queer relationships or in people who identify as members of the LGBTQIA+ community is significant to understanding yourself and to giving yourself a little bit of a break there. If you are feeling this, recognize that there's a lot of normalcy in that, in the idea that your relationships with other queer people, those safe relationships, those real relationships, feel sacred and also therefore become relationships that you protect in any way possible. But in the protection, sometimes we forget that other people are actually free to have connections with other people too. It does not lessen the connection you have with someone for them to also have other relationships. The key is communication. If you have feelings of jealousy within a relationship, talk to the person that you're in that relationship with, that friend, that partner. Talk to them about how you're feeling. Acknowledge it. Don't make it their fault or their problem. Just say, I'm kind of feeling this way. I wanted to talk to you about it. Communication in any relationship is essential. If communication isn't there, the relationship doesn't go very far. It doesn't always feel great to acknowledge that you're jealous. It can be downright icky to have to say it out loud. Is it honestly any worse than closing yourself off so you don't have to connect with other people because you're worried about how that might go? Think about the ways that you've experienced jealousy in your life. Are there other things that you have done that you wish you hadn't done? Or things that you didn't do that now looking back you kind of wish you had? I'd love to hear about them. Go ahead and drop that below. I think that it might help if we all just sort of owned our jealousy and owned our envy, understood it's not a detriment to who we are, but it also doesn't have to be where we stay. That's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you all next time. And until then, take care of yourselves and each other.